So today's lesson you are going to learn measures of center, mean, median, mode and range. We'll see one by one. And one more addition, standard deviation and the variance. So you have learned already what is mean, median, mode and range. One more time you are going to learn or you are going to see what type of different shape or the category we can learn under mean, median and mode. So mean means the average. We'll see how to calculate the average for single data and the frequency table. The same way median, mode and the range. You can see the simple definition for each category. The measure of center. The values at the center or the middle of a data set, that is called the measure of center. So if you have a bunch of data, if you organize from smallest to biggest, you'll see what happened in the middle. So there are three different ways you can measure, that is called mean, median and mode. For example, sometimes we call the mean as arithmetic mean. So both are same. The measure of center obtained by adding the values and dividing the total by the number of values. That is called the average or mean. So before we go to the mean, median and mode, you have to know some of the notation, because when it comes to the large data set, we can write it out everything as an addition. Because of that, first thing I'm going to introduce the notation sigma. Sigma denotes the sum of a set of values. Instead of writing x1 plus x2 up to xn, we can simply write it down sigma xi, I goes from 1 to n. That's the meaning. We are adding n. That's mean if it is 10 or the 100, we can include everything under sigma. Next, the most important value x is the variable usually used to present the individual data set. Each data set, if you have 3, 4, 5 and 7, each that values represent this x, right? If you want to write this as a notation, you have to know this variables. Next, n. N represents the number of data values in a sample. So in this course, you are learning two different things, sample and the population. How to differentiate using the variable. The small n means sample. When it comes to the capital N, we call that the number of data values in a population. So you have to know these notations when it comes to the mean, median and mode. Example, the mean. How to denote the mean? For the sample mean, we use the notation x bar. So mean we had to add all the data and divide it by number of data. So that is called the sample size. Instead of writing this, we use the notation sigma xi 1 to n divided by n. So that is called x bar. The same way, for the population mean, you know the notation for that, mu. How to denote mu? The same way, xi and yi, that is the variable. We can use any other variable to denote x bar and mu. Simply, commonly we are using xi, or for the population yi. This time, instead of small n, for the population we use the n value as capital N. Other than that, the way of doing or way of calculating mean, the same for sample or the population. One more time, the recap for x bar and mu, simply we can denote these notations. Sometimes we have an advantages and disadvantages of mean, right? We call mean is the good measure of center. Sometimes that is reliable, sometimes that is not. We'll see the advantages, right? The advantages of mean, we are counting each single data value to calculate the mean. That's the most important advantages of mean. What's the disadvantages of mean? If you see one extreme value or the outlier, that is affect the mean, right? If you have all the values in between 40 and 60, If you are adding one of the values 90, or if you add the values very low as 10, of course that will affect the mean. So that's a disadvantages of mean. Median. Median mean is the middle value, but after you arrange them into order. So you can go from smallest to highest or highest to smallest, right? After you order from smallest to biggest or the highest, you see what's the middle value. There are two cases for median when it comes to the number of data. If it is odd, only one middle value. When it comes to even, there are two middle values. If it is one value, you are fine. You can say that is your median. When it comes to two values, you had to get an average of those two values. Adding those two middle values and divide it by 2, that will give you the median for even number of data. So often denoted by x tilde. So for the mean, we use the notation x bar. For the median, we use the notation here x tilde. So we talk about advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to median, it's not affected by an extreme value. The reason for that, if you're adding the lowest or the highest values, that won't affect the middle value. Because of that, we call median is the good measure of the center. Finding the median. So how to calculate the median? I already talked about that. You have to write them in order, right? Smallest to the largest. If the number of data values is odd, the median is the number located in the exact middle of the list. If the number of data values is even, the median is found by computing the mean of two middle numbers. Right, for example, you can see the number of data is odd. When you go and count, there are how many data values you can see? 9 of them. 9 is an odd number. When you put them into order, you can see the start with the smallest 1 and end with the biggest 13. If you see what's the middle value, that is called the median. Sometimes if you have a biggest data set, you don't know where to find out the median. For that, so I told you there are number of data is 10. If you are adding 1 to that, 9 plus 1, 10, divided by 2, 5. If you locate the fifth spot, that is your median value, right? If it is 10 or the 9, simple number of or the smallest number of data values, you can put them into order and easy to calculate the mid value. When it comes to 99 data set, how to calculate the mid value? When it comes to 99, at 1, that is 100, divided by 2, is going to be 50. So you can locate your median value at 50th place, right? When you arrange them into order, you see where you can locate the median at 50th spot. So here's an example for odd data and the even data. You can see the example. When it comes to odd, only 1. When it comes to even, there are 2 mid values. You had to add 18 plus 24 and divide it by 2. That will give you the median. Example. So you can see this one is not arranged them into order. The first step, you had to arrange them into order. You see, I have done the arrangement. Then after that, go and count how many data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this time you have even number of data. So there are 2 middle values, 0.73 and 1.1. So you had to add them and divide it by 2. That is your median. You see, you are adding those 2 and divided by 2. The median is 0.195. So this example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one is easy. So odd number of data, first step, you had to arrange them into order, right? Smallest to biggest. Then go and locate what's the mid value, right? How to locate the mid value? If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 plus 1, 8, divided by 2, so 4. So go and locate which one is the fourth spot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 0.73 is the fourth spot, so you can have the median. But a coincidence here, in the original data and the arranged data, the middle value 0.73. Please, if you want to calculate median, don't try that way, right? That's a coincidence. So the median is 0.73. Here's an example for you. Try that and check with my answers. So you can see the answers here. So next, mode. The mode, the value that occurs with the greatest frequency, that is called mode. When you have a number of data, sometimes the data repeat 2 times, 3 times, 5 times. Which one appears the most, that is called the mode. Sometimes you can have one mode or more than one mode, or sometimes no mode, right? So we'll see how to identify that. We call bimodal, multimodal, and no modal. Right. So this is a simple example to calculate the mode. If you have number of data, if you want, you can put them into order, then easy to identify which number appears the most. In this data set, it looks like 5 appears 3 times, 4 appears 2 times. So which one is the highest? 5. So then we can call mode equal 5. Another example for 3 cases. In this first example, you see, so 1.10 appears 2 times, so that is your mode. The second example, 27 appears 3 times, 55 also appears 3 times, 88 only 2 times. So we can say that's a bimodal case. 27 and 55 appear same number of times. There are 2 modes, 27 and 55. And the last one, no numbers repeating. Because of that, there's no mode for this particular case. So next example, we are done with a single data set. When it comes to frequency table also, you have to know how to calculate the mean. The same way, only the difference you can see when it comes to the single data, you are repeating 27 3 times. But when it comes to frequency table, you see 27 repeat 3 times. We put 27 under xi, under fi we put 3. If you want to calculate the mean, instead of adding 27 plus 27 plus 27, simply we can say 3 times 27. So when it comes to frequency table, you had to multiply xi times fi to get the numerator value. Then when it comes to the end value, the total number of data. So how to calculate the total number of data that equal to the total frequency? So you had to add this column to find out what's the end value. So you can see the notation for the frequency table x bar, sigma fi times xi divided by n, right? So before we have just go and calculate the x values, but when it comes to frequency, you had to multiply and divide it by number of data. So here's 2 examples. Try yourself and do that. Right. So in the beginning, we have done the sample and population. The same way, we can do the mean for the sample and population too. So when you read this question, you can identify which one go under sample mean and which one go under population mean. So you can see the answers for that. Right. Next, the range. Simply, you know what is range means. Maximum value and the minimum value. You had to subtract max minus min. So mid-range means slight difference. Mid-range means you had to add those 2 values and divide it by 2. We are not using this as our center, measure of center. The reason for that, if you see 2 extreme values, that is not the good measure of the center. Right? So that's all about mean, median, mode and range. We'll see in another video.